Yeah, absolutely. And from traveling abroad and also living here in the United States, what have you seen as some of the biggest misconceptions about socialism and communism?
I think we need to first get our definitions straight. Now, when
Okay.
we talk about capitalism, a lot of people think about their friend Joe, the bar owner, who works very hard and works for hours, scrubbing floors and building up his community business. Well, we need to be clear when we talk about capitalists and the capitalist ruling class. We're not talking about, mom and pop store owners. We're not talking about people tinkering around in their garage and developing a new idea. The people who rule the world in the 21st century are billionaire monopolists, people with more wealth and power. You would actually talk to one of these people, they probably couldn't even tell you how much money they actually have. When one of the Rockefellers was being appointed to a government position in the 1970s, investigative journalists couldn't even figure out how much money he actually had. Think about the bankers at the center of the IMF and the World Bank or the European Union. You think about people with so much money, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, international, global financial elites. That's the capitalism that we face in the 21st century. And capitalism is a system where the major centers of economic power, the banks, the big box stores, the factories, the oil wells, that they're all the private property of owners. They own it. And because they own it, it becomes operated for the purpose of making profits for them. And that's what capitalism is, right? Under capitalism, the majority of the human race, they sell their labor in order to survive. They work. But there's a small group of people who own the major industries and own the centers of economic power, and they own for a living, and the rest of us work. And that's capitalism. Socialism is an alternative economic system in which the banks and the factories and the major centers of economic power are under public control, and they're public property. And instead of operating to make profits for a group of owners, they operate according to a central plan, and that the state, sits down and dictates how much steel is going to be produced, how many loans are going to be handed out for the overall good of the country and for the population. It's a centrally planned economy. Some people call it economic democracy because instead of capitalists and private billionaires owning the economy, a government that represents the people actually has the ability to dictate economic policy and determine what kind of production goes on. So that's our definitions. Let's get our definitions straight. There's a lot of confusion. I've heard people say that the USA is half socialist and half capitalist. That's completely false. We have a very, very capitalist economy. I've heard people say that socialism is when the government gives people free stuff. And any capitalist economy is going to have some welfare state. Most countries in the world, especially most Western countries, do have national health care. That's not socialism. That's just a welfare state initiative that's given to people. So we need to get our definitions straight. Socialism is a centrally planned economy. Capitalism is an economy based on profits.
Now,